Hi guys, I'll just start now since I can post the video later. I'm currently in Artsakh and specifically in the village of Աղավնո. So Աղավնո is the first village when you leave Armenia and enter Artsakh. And it's very important because it's basically the artery that connects Artsakh to Armenia. And otherwise it's surrounded by Azerbaijan, which wants to basically get rid of all the Armenians there or have them live under its control. And we know what that means from the 2020 war. Any village where Armenians stayed behind did not end well. We're talking about civilians, elderly people, disabled people. So anyway, it's very clear that it's not a future to live under Azerbaijan and not to have anything, any critical resources dependent on Azerbaijan. So that includes electricity, that includes water. Today I visited the hydroelectric plant in Աղավնո, which is under our control, and it's still working, and it actually provides electricity all the way to Stepanakert, which is the capital. So what I'm going to say will sound crazy to anyone who's not following the situation, but essentially the Armenian government wants to hand over this crucial artery to Azerbaijan. And if it's, crazy. Who would believe that an Armenian government would even think of it? But today we finally, for those of you who have been, calling people like me crazy for saying what's going to happen, we had the verbal confirmation from Nikol Pashinyan that yes, indeed, he plans to hand this over. And he can explain it however he wants, which of course he's the master manipulator. What he said is that they just have to go, like it's for their own safety. But no, actually nobody has to go anywhere. The November 9th agreement that was made after the war puts Russian forces in charge of this, and Armenia really doesn't have a role to play. It's not under their control anymore, this area. But what Armenia can do is cut off Artsakh. They can remove the Armenian military from anywhere nearby. They pulled the Armenian military out of Artsakh. And again, Pashinyan can explain it however he wants. But what I would like to tell you guys, because for those of you who've been following, you already know all this. I want to tell you about a small example of how one person can make a difference. So here in Աղավնո, the mayor, basically when everybody else in this artery that connects from Armenia to Azerbaijan to Artsakh, when they were told to leave, most of them left, just to make their life easier. They got money, they took bribes, whatever. Whereas he refused and he stayed. And he said, get lost, I'm not going anywhere. So that's why Armenians are here till today. That's why Artsakh has a connection to Armenia till today, because one guy decided to say no. Simply. There weren't even any shots fired. He just said, no, I'm not going anywhere. So, it's up to us, really. It can come down to actually an individual to say no. Another example of what this mayor did. The Azerbaijanis wanted to put a power line connecting between, I guess some hydroelectric plant that Pashinyan gave them in another area. And they wanted to use the main paved road to put this electric line. And he said no. They had to go through the Russians and make this request. And he had told the Russians, no way. And then they asked, can we go here? He said no. And so they actually had to take this crazy detour all over these mountains and put this electrical line in places where it's actually very easy to cut it. Like I could actually see it. You could just climb up the cliff and cut it if you wanted to. So that was just because he said no. Whereas everyone is just, there's just so many people who, I don't think people are cowardly by nature, but they've been convinced that there's no choice, that Armenia has no choice, and that if we just take the least worst deal on offer, that, you know, maybe they'll leave us alone. But unfortunately, Aliyev, the leader of Azerbaijan, he's quite clear, as is Erdogan, the president of Turkey, is also very clear with their policy that they do not see this ending here with Artsakh. They claim what they call Zangezur, which is actually Sunit, which is southern Armenia. And if they take control of this area, whether by war economically, simply, or if they dominate the road and manage to cut Armenia from Iran, it's going to be very problematic for the Republic of Armenia. So even if people don't care about Artsakh, which is hard to accept, but that exists, it's important to see that, you know, the Republic of Armenia is also at stake, the viability of its statehood. Because if you have different roads crisscrossing through that Armenians are not able to go on, it becomes like the West Bank. You know, Artsakh would be like Gaza, and Armenia like the West Bank. And it's sad to think that, you know, the Palestinians who want a state, whereas Armenia has a state, but is kind of parceling it off. So yeah, I just wanted to emphasize these, you know, very clear examples from the mayor of Աղավնոյից and what he's personally done to just get in the way, say no, refuse to leave. And yeah, one person can make a difference. So there's no reason to accept this as normal. It's not normal. There was a November 9th agreement agreed between Armenia and Azerbaijan and the mediation of Russia that, you know, there's also conditions on Azerbaijan. You know, even if we demand that the minimum of that deal was implemented, it hasn't been. The most minute thing, which is the return of Armenian POWs. And that's, in my opinion, not, you know, shouldn't have even been relevant. I mean, Armenia should have never given back Azerbaijani POWs, not to mention convicted criminals, not to mention mind maps, before securing the safety of its citizens. It's Armenia that's lowered the bar. It's the Pashinyan government that's lowered the bar. And putting us in the position of the Palestinians when that really wasn't necessary or desirable. Anyway, I'm going to just keep doing these lives from here, because I think it's important that people know what's going on. I think it's important that we not remain apathetic and just throw in the towel. There are people living here. People live in Artsakh. People live in Աղավնոյից. People live in Bertsor. If we're really going to take Pashinyan seriously and say, oh, we're going to have a peace deal, there's going to be a peace deal with Azerbaijan. There's going to be connectivity. Why do people need to leave their homes? Think about it. If there's going to be connectivity, why do we have to give up roads? Why? Isn't connectivity more roads? Isn't, you know, peace deal mean that we're all going to live together and be happy? Can't people stay in their homes? Or can we not live side by side with Azeris? Is Azerbaijan just getting a corridor? Are they just making Artsakh unviable? They're making Armenia unviable. Are we going to be a vilayet? Because that's the only way to put it. Unless you want to compare it to the West Bank or something like that. Whatever. I mean, I think we shouldn't. A lot of people get turned off by certain terminology and they think that people are exaggerating. But, you know, this is something that Turkey is doing all over the region. In northern Cyprus, in Iraq, in northern Syria, in Libya. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is not an Armenian-Turkish problem or an Armenian-Azeri problem, whatever. This is just Turkish expansionism. And yeah, I just would ask you, those of you who think it's fine that people get ethnically cleansed from their houses, potentially, if you would be, if you think that Arabs, Kurds should have accepted that ISIS stay in Syria, that ISIS stay in Mosul, that ISIS stay in Aleppo, that ISIS stay in the capital of Libya, would that have been okay? Should people have just put their heads down and left them alone and left them to raise the next generation of genocidal psychopaths? Because that's what we're looking at. So I don't really care what Pashinyan said, but it's still problematic, because if Pashinyan and Aliyev tell the Russian peacekeepers here to get lost, what are they supposed to do? Get in the way, get shot at? It's not really their problem. It's up to Armenians or people who care to speak out about what's happening and try to, even if you don't, it's not about politics. It shouldn't be about liking Pashinyan or not. It's just an existential issue. And if you think it's not going to affect your life in Armenia, then I'm sorry, but you have another thing coming. So that's all. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to message me. I've made my Instagram public so everyone can watch my lives. So anyway, have a good night, everybody. Greetings from Աղավնո, and if you're in Armenia, you should come. All right, that's it. I think I will end it here.